Hello, my friends. It's me, Karen Valentine, and today I'm going to do another video celebrating my 1-year colorversary. The last video I did about that was showing all of my my completed color pages, and today I thought I would share with you all of the coloring supplies that I've collected over the last year, and just give you a little bit of my own opinions on all of them. You may not agree with everything, and that's okay, because you know, coloring supplies, just like art or anything else, is very subjective, and what some people might like, other people might not. So this is just my my thoughts and opinions on the ones that I have tried already. So I think we will start with the pencils. So the first pencil I want to talk about is actually one that I don't have anymore because I returned it. I sent the set back, and I debated on whether or not to talk about this one or not, so I'm going to make it really short, hopefully. It's the Castle Arts pencils. So many people had given them such great reviews and had talked about how much they loved them that I gave them a try, and I ordered them on Amazon. And when I got them, when I received them and opened them up and began to swatch them on my swatch chart, I discovered rather quickly that they were not the pencils for me. And the reason that I'm telling you this is only because if you're thinking about buying them, I just want you to be aware of another opinion besides the ones that a lot of people are giving of how much they like them. For me, I found them scratchy, and I found them not very highly pigmented, so I had to really, I don't know, press and put on the layers, and even then they just were not performing in the way that I had hoped that a pencil would perform. And I realized that they are kind of a budget-friendly pencil, and that's fine. But I have a couple of other brands of budget-friendly pencils that I actually really love. So Castle Arts, for me, are a big thumbs down. That's just my opinion. So if you love them, great. I'm so glad that they worked for you. They did not work for me. So I did try those. The other budget-friendly pencils that I have are the Spearer Farben oil-based pencils. And I bought those as a kind of a gateway into oil-based pencils, I guess. I did start with wax-based, and these were so reasonably priced. It was like $50 for the 96 set, which I think is a fantastic price for a good pencil. And they also got really, really, really great reviews. So that was a price that I was willing to invest and give them a shot. So they come in some very lovely colors. The 96 set is very nice, and some nice colors. So what I'm just gonna maybe swatch one of these out while I'm talking, so that maybe you can see how they perform, I guess, would be a good explanation. So let's just go with, how about, well, this one's right in front of me, so let's go with this fuchsia pink. So these pencils, as I said, are an oil-based pencil, and probably similar to the Polychromos, they are going to take a lot more layers to get your rich saturated colors. So right now I'm giving this I'm going to call this a medium pressure. I'm not really pressing down hard, but I'm also not letting the pencil just kind of float on the paper either. I have to press down in order to get this pigment on here. So they're not a bad pencil for the price. I have read on Amazon, in fact, before I before I bought them, I read on Amazon that there were a lot of people saying that they were very comparable to the Polychromos. And since I now own Polychromos, I can honestly say that the only thing comparable is the fact that they are both oil-based pencils. I'm glad I have them. They're a nice set of pencils, and since I kind of have become a pencil junkie, you know, they're a nice addition to my collection. But really, I don't find them as saturated in color as I would like. They're not bad, but they're probably one of my least used and least favorite of the pencils that I still own. But there's that being said, they're still a nice pencil, and for the price, if you don't want to spend the money on Polychromos but you do want an oil-based pencil, I think they're a lovely pencil. But as you can see, it's taken me quite a few layers, just going over it over and over and over again to kind of build up a nice, rich, saturated color. And I didn't count how many layers, but geez, there's probably at least 10 layers on here of me going over and over and over. So that is the Spearer Farben. So I would say for a budget-friendly pencil, they're pretty good. But if you want, you know, like a super great pencil, you know, maybe spend a little bit more money and get something else. Okay, so the next one that I have to show you is the Arteza. So Arteza pencils, sorry, trying to get the, there we go. Arteza pencils were actually the first set of artist quality pencils that I purchased after the crappy Hobby Lobby brand that I bought that I quickly realized were not going to be for me. And I actually really like the Arteza pencils. If someone were to ask me, you know, which should I get, the Castle Art or the Arteza, because usually those are the two that people are debating about, you know, between, I tell them Arteza 100% all the way. I find the colors very rich and beautiful, and they're a nice soft core pencil that that blends very nicely. So this is Fruit Punch in the Arteza. Let me just show you what they. So this is my set of Artezas, and the customer service in with this company is absolutely excellent. I had some problems, and they resolved that problem over and above what any other company I think would have done very quickly. So they were great. They are smooth and quiet, if that makes any sense. Like when I'm coloring, I can hardly even hear the pencil on the paper, which to me means that it's a nice, smooth, soft core pencil, which I really like. Let's see, what else? Yes, great colors. They are a wax-based pencil, and in my opinion, they are a great starter pencil if you're a new colorist and you don't want to spend the money on some of the higher end pencils. What else can I say about these pencils? I use them with my Prismacolors quite a lot. They blend very well with those, but they are harder and they hold their point better. So yeah, Artezas for a budget-friendly pencil, get big 2 thumbs up. I really like those pencils. Okay, so those are my two sets of more budget-friendly pencils. Everything else that I that I have costs a bunch. And you know, it's all relative as to what a bunch is. So I will go maybe in backwards order of, like, God, I hate to say my least favorites because they're all lovely pencils, but I'll show you my I'll show you my 2 or 3 favorites last. So these two come probably tied for 4th place. I don't know. So these are Caran Luminance, and they are a beautiful pencil. They the colors that they come in, I feel like, are really, really lovely. And one of the things that I like about the colors is they feel, okay, what's the word? Not desaturated, but they are not super bright. And the way that I like to color is kind of in more muted, limited color palette sort of a way. And so these are not super bright and like kids colors. They feel very adult, I guess is what I'm trying to say. They feel very, very nice. I did only have one pencil out of the bunch that I thought was a bad pencil. It just did not swatch properly. It was scratchy and yucky, but it's not a color that I really care much about, so I'm not too worried about it. All the other pencils swatched out really, really beautifully. They are, I would say kind of a mid-ish priced pencil. And they have a lot of wonderful skin tones in the set, which I really like because I do a lot of portraits. So let's pull, I don't know, should we stick in the same vein of color, or should I think I'll pull out this this purplish red just for the heck of it. And that one's not very sharp though, and I don't have my sharpener with me. Let's see, can we do a different one? What is this one? You know what, we'll do this one instead. This is kind of an interesting color. This is Pyroline Brown. It's really more of a red, but so with these pencils, I know I have my fan on, so I don't know if you can hear or not. So I'm going to shut up and let you listen and see if you can hear it. So these pencils I can hear as I'm coloring on the page, as opposed to, you know, the Artezas, which were completely quiet. I believe that this is because they're a harder pencil. They're not as, you know, soft and creamy, but they're a really, really nice pencil, and I really should use them more often than I do. I've put myself on a color pencil, not boycott, that's not the right word. Like, I'm not letting myself buy any more color pencils because I have 7 sets. And honestly, I wind up using 1 or 2 sets more than all the other ones combined. And so there's really no point in me spending more money on more colored pencils. Not when, you know, I have great pencils already and I really don't need any more. But I should be using all of them for sure, especially these, because they're really nice. They're really, really nice in color. And this one, I feel the need to blend a little bit. And for some reason at the moment, I don't have my favorite Caran blender, so I'll just use my Prisma blender. good enough. So that is the Caran Luminance. They're lovely pencils. I really like them. So Luminance. Oh, and if you do a lot of where you want to hang your artwork, where you want to frame it and hang it, these are great because they have very, very high light fast ratings, which means that they will not fade out. They will not fade out in over time and in when exposed to sunlight and things like that. So that is a big plus. So my next set of pencils would be the Derwent Coloursoft, and these were gifted to me. Andrea and Allison sent me this set after I put it in my wish list. And I put it in my wish list because I had tried some out on open stock, and I really, really liked them. And they have a lot of wonderful skin tones as well. And I've actually put a little mark next to all of the ones that work well for skin. And there's actually marked 12 out of the, I think 72 that they come in, I believe. So the Derwent Coloursoft are these, and they're a lovely pencil. They feel good in the hand. The only thing about these, which I thought was really interesting compared to all the other pencils, is the wood. And it doesn't affect the coloring, it doesn't affect the breakage, it actually doesn't affect anything, but it has the roughest wood when you sharpen it of all of my pencils. And so I'm not sure what they use for their pencil, casing, but definitely a rougher wood than all the rest of them. So let's see, what color should we do from here? And the other thing about these that's kind of nice is that the colors that came with the set are not colors that I feel like I have in some of my other sets. They're a little more, I don't know how to explain it. They're lighter, maybe. There aren't as many deep, rich colors as some of my other sets, and so they're a nice complement to what I have. Let's do that bright purple. That's pretty. C20. Did I pull that out and not put it back? It looks like it. I don't know where that is, so we'll just go with purple. I have to find that pencil. Okay, so these I feel are softer than the Luminance. I can still hear it on the page, but I can just feel that it's a softer, creamier pencil. The color, I feel, goes on very rich and nice right from the beginning. I'm giving this about the same pressure as I've been giving all the other ones, and it's pretty good coverage, I think. Again, I would probably consider these a mid-priced pencil. I think they run in the $100 range for the set. So I would call that a mid-price, I guess. So that is that one. I know I probably should have picked all the same colors for each one of these just to, make it a little bit more comparable. Okay, so this is the Derwent Coloursoft. And again, these are a pretty new set of pencils, so That is why they don't look very used. They're a fairly new set to me, so I do want to, you know, keep using them. And so, all right, so those would be probably the least, the least used of my sets, but that doesn't mean they're not awesome sets. So the next set I will show you is the, what do they call that? The purple unicorn, purple unicorn? Like, it's hard to find. So somehow I got extremely lucky because I have had the Holbein 150 set on my wish list, in my brain, my wish list of pencils that I would like to get for quite a while. And they were always out of my price range, and they're hard to get. You have to get them, most people get them from Amazon Japan, ordering them directly, you know, from Japan, because that is where they are made, and you cannot buy them in art supply stores. You can't, they're hard to find. For some reason, I don't know why. I think it's because some of the colors couldn't clear certain tests that that we have here in the US. I'm not sure what the reasons are. Maybe it's the same reason for other countries like England and Australia and Europe, and but I'm pretty sure that everybody has to buy them from Japan. Anyway, that went in a very long roundabout way of saying that I was able to find these secondhand, extremely lightly used, like some of the pencils were used, but most of them hadn't even been sharpened yet, from a gal in one of my Facebook groups. And she sold hers because she found that they were too close to Prismacolors for the amount of money that she spent on them. And because I love Prismacolors, and the price that she sold them at, while it wasn't cheap, it was still less money than I would have had to have spent buying them new and directly from Amazon Japan. So yay, I finally got myself a set of Holbeins. And they are lovely, lovely pencils. I would say yes, they are very similar to Prismacolor. They are soft. I believe, if I remember reading correctly, that these are a mix of wax and oil. And just, I mean, I have no sets that give me as many greens as I have in this set, and the rest of the colors are just saturated and beautiful, and I really, really, really like them. So are there any downsides to these? The only downside that I can think of to these is that I cannot get them open stock. So if, you know, once a pencil is gone, that baby is gone, and there's nothing that I can do about that. So, you know, that is what it is. I will probably not use these as my primary pencils. I will use these as my pencils that will go with other things. But just, it's more quiet on the paper. Not that that means anything, but to me that just means it's really soft. It is, yeah, I mean, it's just soft and creamy and lovely. I will definitely use these in conjunction with my Prismas. And I'll be really sad when they all go bye-bye. But I'm being really super cautious about sharpening, trying really hard not to sharpen too much, just because I want to preserve them, because I don't want them to go away. Because it's a bummer when you can't buy things open stock. The the Coloursoft and the Luminance are both available open stock. So that's nice. Usually these more expensive pencils are the ones that you're going to be able to get open stock. So, I mean, that didn't hardly take any layers at all compared to some of the others. And we've already got a nice, a nice heavy, rich color. What else can I say about these? The pastels. The pastels, you know, when you open up the box and the pastels are all laid out, you've probably seen it in other videos. It just looks like the most wonderful, like sherbet, and it's just yummy. I decided to put my pencils in a different order than what they came in the box, so that's why they all have numbers on them, and they coordinate with my swatch charts, just like I always do. But I put them in an order that, you know, made more sense to me, kind of in a color order. And it's not perfect. There are definitely ones that I wish I would have moved around. But I mixed all of the pastels in with the rest of the pencils, so they don't make as big of a ta-da statement as they would when they come out of the box and you see them. But, you know, these are some of the pastels. These are some of the pastels. and they're kind of all through here. There's some just beautiful colors in this one. So I feel very, very blessed to have been able to get this set, because I had kind of written it off as not ever being able to own a set of these, and I'm so very, very happy that I do. Okay, so that's the Holbeins. The next set is my also a new set to me, and will probably be my second most used set of pencils. And that would be, aren't they so pretty when they're new? Don't you just like, I just want to just want to roll my hands over them and look at them. They're all shiny and anyway. So that would be my new set of Polychromos pencils. I bought a few open stock at my local art supply store to try them out first, because I had heard that if I was a lover of Prismacolors, that I might not love the Polychromos, because they behave very differently. Polychromos are an oil-based, Prismas are wax. And that doesn't mean that they're all that way, but it's the majority of wax and a majority of oil. They're probably all a little bit mix of both. But the biggest difference between, let's see, let me back up. So I was a little bit worried that I would not like them, because I was not crazy about the Spürer and I was afraid that they would behave the same way. But once I got the open stock and tried them out, I quickly discovered that was just not the case. And to me, they actually almost do behave like a Prismacolor, in that they feel like they grip the paper very, very nicely. They the Spürer almost felt like the pencil was gliding over the top of the paper and wasn't ever really digging into the tooth of the paper. The polys feel to me very similar to Prismacolor in feel, in how it gets placed on the page. The biggest difference is that it does take more layers to get the same saturation and richness of color than you would with a Prismacolor. So again, I'm doing the same kind of medium pressure on here, and they don't really do well when you really bear down hard on them. I find that you don't get a nice blend. They really do work best when you do light layers, and just keep building up that color. So I also discovered that they work really, really well with Prismacolors, even though one's oil-based and one's wax-based. They blend together and function on the same page beautifully. I also like that if I want to do a light layer, a light, how do I say this? If I want a lighter color of the pencil, I can do fewer layers and still get, I don't know how much darker this one is. Let's see. That's a little bit darker. I can still get a nice smooth blend. Like I haven't even touched that with a blending pencil and it's already just smooth and lovely. And if I keep going and layer more and more and more, the color is going to continue to get darker and richer, but I still have the a beautiful blend, a beautiful coverage, whether I do a lot of layers or light layers. I still get a really nice thing. So Polychromos are rapidly becoming my second favorite pencil. I really, really like them. They feel wonderful in my hand. They sharpen to a nice point, and they are harder than Prismacolors, so they don't wear down as fast. You're not going to go through your pencils as fast. So, yeah, great pencil. I do love it. And who knows, you know, it might take over first place as I continue to play. So the last one that I have to show you, I saved the best for last, and that is, you know, that is my opinion, and that is my beloved Prismacolors. So, you know, everybody has their thoughts on Prismas. It seems like you either love them or hate them. And there are reasons for that. Yes, they are. People have said that the quality of the pencil has gone down over the years, and that's very possible. I don't know. I haven't owned them. You know, I haven't owned any of the old pencils, so I don't know. And yes, if you drop them on a hard surface, they will break because they're a very soft lead. But if you, and as far as sharpening goes, when I first got them and I used a manual sharpener, yes, I did have a problem with breakage. Once I switched to my elliptical helix type sharpener, I almost never have a problem with breakage in sharpening of these pencils. And I'll show you that in a little bit. So let's see, we'll use this one. What else? Yes, they don't hold a point for a super duper long time, but that is because they are a soft core pencil. So, you know, I love them despite the fact that they have their faults, because the results that I get from them are, for me, are really, really good. And I'm very, very, very happy with the results I get. So I'm a fan. I happen to really like them. And I also really like that they are probably the least expensive of the the least expensive of the more expensive pencils. They're you can get these on sale quite often, and they're cheaper than Polychromos. They're cheaper per pencil than, you know, Luminance or Coloursoft. I get them locally at my art supply store, open stock for probably like $1.50 $1.29, $1.39 a pencil, which to me is to me that's just a great price. So there's my Prismacolor, and yeah, I love how easy it is to get super rich, super saturated color with them, and they blend like a dream. So I'm a big fan. They are my number one favorite pencil. So let's see, there's my set. You can see it's more used than any of the other pencils because it well, you can see they're not all, long and beautiful, and many of these longer pencils have already been replaced once or twice. So yeah, and I love the color range. I love the colors. And I love that so many of the tutorials and things like that on YouTube actually are with Prismacolor, and that may be why I originally went with them over the Polychromos, because when I was first starting to learn and watch YouTube videos, it was really easy to understand what was going on because I had the same set of pencils. So there are my 7 sets of colored pencils. Yeah, like I said, I'm not buying any more because every time I buy a set, it seems to sit there and not get used nearly as much as my Prismacolors and probably now my Polychromos, because I do really like those too. So, alrighty, so on to the next coloring supply. Okay, so the next stuff I have to show you is all of my water-based media, like watercolor pencils, Inktense, Neocolors, all of that good stuff. So the first set of water-based media that I bought was the Arteza colored pencils, watercolor pencils. And they're very nice. I hardly ever use them anymore. It's not that they're not lovely, it's that I use so many other things more. So the Arteza, the nice thing about the Arteza watercolor pencils is that they're so nice that you can actually use them without activating them with water. So if you're looking for a pencil that serves that's multifunctional, serves many purposes, it's a nice pencil. And the colors from the watercolor pencils are the same colors that you get in the regular colored pencil sets. So these now will activate with water, and they're nice. They're not my favorite watercolor type pencil, but they're still very nice and they're fun to play with. So, not bad. That is the Arteza watercolor. A watercolor pencil that I like much better than those is actually not really even a true watercolor pencil, and that is the Derwent Inktense. Zoom out a little bit. The Derwent Inktense are actually water-based ink, and once it's dry, it is permanent. There is no reactivating it with water once it is dry, which is actually a really nice thing because you can use it, let it dry, and then go over it again with either the same product, the Inktense, or with a watercolor, but it won't move and reactivate. So that's kind of a nice thing. And the colors are very rich and beautiful. Let's see, I have my chart here. So these are the Derwent Inktense, and you can see how vibrant the colors are. They're really, really beautiful. The only thing that I found about these that I don't like is that they behave very differently depending on the kind of paper that you're using. And that is true with most things, but I found especially with the Inktense. I had actually purchased these to use in my copy when I first started of Mythomorphia, because I had seen them used on a YouTube video, and the way that they worked on that paper in that page was fantastic, and I was like, I just have to have those. However, little did I know that the paper from one book, what am I trying to say? The paper in the Mythomorphia book that I own is different than the paper of Mythomorphia that maybe you guys in the UK own, because they were printed at different printers using different paper. So the thing that I found when I tried to use these in my book was that the water and ink mixture soaked into the paper so fast that there was no work time whatsoever, and it came out very blotchy. So I was not very happy about that. There are some books, such as Linda Ravenscroft's books, for an example, where these work fantastically. The paper lets the ink sit on top for just a minute or so that you can manipulate and work that water and ink mixture, and it does a beautiful, beautiful job. I, as some of you may have seen in some of my previous videos, generally like to use these a little differently than a typical, trying to find a color here, than a typical, sorry, what am I trying to say? Then most people probably use a watercolor pencil. And the reason for that is that most people will use these and do their coloring on the paper with the Inktense. And then they will activate the pigment. So kind of like this, they will color. And I think you could probably even vary, like if I make it heavier on this end with the pigment and work my way to lighter. Then when it's activated, I should probably go this direction. Always work from light to dark, right? Then when you activate with water, it intensifies the color, and you get this really pretty color. So, but what I generally like to do, and the reason is that as I'm painting, I'm coloring, I want to see what the color is going to look like from the moment that I put it on the page. So I will pull the pigment from the tip of the pencil and apply it that way. So straight on, I know what that color is going to look like. Oh, I don't want to do that. Straight on, I will know what that color looks like. So that's how I like to use these. So if I had known that before I started coloring, I probably would have bought the Inktense Blocks as opposed to the Inktense pencils. The Inktense Blocks look like what a chalk pastel looks like. So it's just this little square block of color that I would then be able to use my water brush on and just pull straight from that little block of color rather than dealing with sharpening a pencil. But this is what I have, so that's okay too. The nice thing about these also is that if I want more intense color, once that's dry, because you don't want to overwork your paper, once that's dry, I can go back in again and add another layer and just keep doing that if I want, and build up and build up and build up the layers. You can see it's a little bit darker here because I actually put quite a bit of pigment on this end of the paper. But so those are my Derwent Inktense. They're lovely and fun to play with. But again, I would be cautious, and if you're going to use them in a book, find a page that you can do a test page on. And I would kind of recommend that for any time you're working with a new media in a book, is to pick a page that you don't especially adore if they don't provide you with blank test pages in the book, because you never know what's going to happen and how a media will react, especially anything that's not a colored pencil. It just might not react the way you're expecting with the paper that you're using. So the next one is also by Arteza. I went a little crazy when I first started coloring, and I think I bought every product that Arteza had in its arsenal at the time. And some I love and some I don't love, but I do really, really like their watercolors. So this is the 36 half pan set, and as you can see, it's well used. And I do go through here occasionally and spritz the lids with water to clean that up, but I don't always feel the need to. Sometimes I'll just work on a dirty pan, and it gives me good color. So I don't know what to say about that. But so this, normally when I do watercolor, I do not use a water brush. Normally when I do watercolor, I will use a regular paintbrush with several jars of water, one to clean the watercolor brush off in, and one clean water to use when I'm to paint with, if that makes sense. But these are quite lovely and give a really pretty vibrant color. So I'll just pull another one here too, just to show you. I love to use watercolors on backgrounds. Yeah, love them, and they're fun to paint with too. So if you're looking for a fairly budget-friendly watercolor set, Artezas are very, very, very nice. So that's that. This is Arteza watercolor. Okay, so here is, before we move on to that, I'm going to show you something that I got that I don't like, or I should say sometimes I like it, but most of the time I don't. And that is the Arteza Real Brush Pens. So these are just an interesting thing. They are a true, they do have a true brush tip. the color is in the barrel, and you can, I don't know what to say about this. So if you move slowly, the color comes out pretty smoothly and evenly. So if you're going to just do straight coloring without any blending and layering, I suppose that they would be okay. I suppose they might also be okay as a base layer for things after they're completely dry. The thing that I don't like about them is that they don't blend, for me, they don't blend very well. And that's kind of what I wanted them for. I wanted to be able to, you know, create these wonderful watercolory looking things with these. And they just don't. They don't blend. If you work too fast, you get a scratchy, uneven look. And so you can see that they just, I mean, I realize that they're not alcohol markers. I know that some alcohol markers, you know, they blend with each other beautifully. But even after applying water to this, to try and see if I can get it to blend, the ink, the pigment on the paper doesn't move. So once it's soaked into the paper, that's kind of what you're going to get. It's not going to activate again, like if I were to come in here with a watercolor and add more water to it. I'm going to be able to move that pigment around again. It's going to move and it's going to blend or do whatever I want it to do. Whereas the real brush pens do not. Once that color is down and has made its mark on the paper, it's not moving. So I struggle with these. I rarely use them. I did do a page with them and had great success once. I don't know what I did or why it worked well for me that time, but it did. But that was just a freak of, that was a happy accident. So I'm not in love with the real brush pens. I've seen some videos. In fact, it was the video that made me buy them in the first place, that put out by Arteza, and an artist was using them and just created the most beautiful rose picture with them. And I don't know what they were doing or how they did it, but I haven't had that kind of success in any way, shape, or form. So, alrighty. So really, I mean, as I'm thinking about it, there's really only a couple of the things that I have purchased that I'm really not happy with. Everything else I really, really quite like. So this is pearlescent watercolor, handmade pearl watercolor paints by KJ Designs by Caran, which I got off of Etsy. And again, they are handmade watercolors in these gorgeous, gorgeous colors. And they dry to a, I know I'm not being very neat here in my little squares. They dry to this gorgeous pearlescent color. So let's see, let me show you a couple here. This is another one of those supplies that I absolutely had to have. And unfortunately, I don't use it as often as I should. This one is not showing up and looking very pretty, but this one looks very pretty. So I'm not sure why that one doesn't. Let's do this gold. I think these work best, to tell you the truth, when you put them on top of another color. So here's the teal. But this is what the teal looks like if I use it on top of, gee, I don't know, you know, I just realized this might not stick because it's so waxy. Well, let's just see what happens. Put it on top of the Polychromos. So I'm going to put it on top, and then I'm going to let it dry, and I'm going to see what happens, because I'm curious now. I feel like I want to zoom in a little bit so you guys can see. So it's kind of shimmery. I know I shouldn't do it this soon after I haven't let the paper dry. I recently used these on a page in Linda Ravenscroft's books, where they had stars all over with a unicorn and stuff, and they were really beautiful for that. So anyway, those were kind of neat. Metallic, I guess metallic pearlescent, I don't know what the right word is, but handmade watercolors. So let's see, did that? Yeah, that's stuck. So I put it on top of the Polychromos, and it's on there, it's stuck, and it's all shimmery and shiny. So yeah, KJ Designs by Caran. And then the last of my water media would be my Neocolor IIs. So I keep them in this plastic box, and I've kind of separated the colors by where they fall on my color chart, although I think I need to reorganize and redo that. But I want to add to it because I know that there are many more colors than what I have, and I think it's time to add to it. So I'll take my swatch chart with me to the art supply store so I can actually physically see the colors, and I might add to my collection. But for now, so there are a couple of ways that you can use these, and all of them have their benefits. So the way that I generally will use it is I will color onto a palette, and this one is by Caran Dash, and it's textured. You guys have probably seen me use these in some coloring videos. So then I will activate that ink on the palette, not really ink, you know, the pigment, and then I'll come over and I will apply it to my page. Another way that you can do it is you can pull directly off of the crayon, just directly off the tip of the crayon. And you actually have less waste that way because, you know, there's still some pigment left here on my palette. And if I don't use it all, then that was kind of a waste. But to be honest, I've had these for quite a long time and I have never sharpened them. They seem to just last forever and ever and ever. And then the other way that some people will use them is they will take the crayons and they'll actually color on the paper. I personally do not recommend this. I don't think you have as much control when you do that. And I'm not sure that you'll ever actually be able to activate all of the pigment. Let's see. So it's on there. And then we can work it out. Yeah, I guess that's not too bad. I wonder though, once that's dry, if there will be more lines over here that will show rather than when you pull it from the palette. I just really prefer to pull it from the palette. So you can get some wonderful backgrounds with these Neocolors. They're one of my favorites to use for backgrounds, actually. So that is my Neocolor II. Those are my watercolor supplies. Probably my favorites are the Inktense and the Neocolors, and then the regular watercolors would come in second or third place on that. It's interesting what different effects that you get. A lot of the times, I mean, you can see how different each one of these squares looks, but a lot of the time when I'm coloring a background, even though I'm pulling from here like I did here, I still will get, when you apply it to the page, you can get that kind of mottled watercolory look that I find really cool and attractive. So, all right, so those are my water soluble coloring supplies. Let's see, what's next, I wonder. Okay, so one of the other categories, I guess you could say, of the coloring supplies that I have would be pastels. And these are by Master's Touch, which is Hobby Lobby here in the States. And they're just dry chalk pastels. And actually the way I use those is to take a razor blade or an X-Acto knife of some kind and actually scrape the pastel directly into a little jar or ramekin. And in doing that, you get this nice powdery color that you can then take any tool that you like. These are Tim Holtz sponge, applicators, little tiny ones, which are really nice for detail. This was just a stamp that I actually put a piece of Velcro on and some felt. But you can use those kind of tools to take and apply your chalk pastel that way. And it makes for nice, real soft muted backgrounds and things like that. Now, I don't use this really anymore because I discovered something that I like much, much better, and that would be my pan pastels. And the pan pastels, my first set that I purchased was called the Garden Set number 2, I believe, and it had some blues and some greens and probably a purple color, I believe. And I bought it because I wanted to use it to do backgrounds. And I quickly discovered that that was just not going to be enough, that I had to have the portrait set to do portraits. And holy moly, does it do gorgeous, gorgeous portraits. I have the garden set, the portrait set, and then I was gifted, very generously gifted by Kenny, the dark shade set. Which is also really, really nice. There's a lot of really yummy colors in it that the portrait set actually doesn't have for when you want to get those nice, deeper, dark tones. So this is a picture that I just finished, and that's an example of what you can achieve with the pan pastels in portraits. Her skin is entirely done in pan pastels. So they're awesome, and they're not necessarily on the cheap side, for sure, but they are really, really, really fun to work with, and one of my favorite supplies to use. So those are the pan pastels. Let's see what's next. I think tools will be next. Okay, so I decided to incorporate into this segment my markers, fine liners, markers, things like that as well. So this set is by Arteza, and it is their Inkonic fine liners. They are absolutely wonderful for getting into small spaces when you want some nice, really good saturated color. So if you're working in the purpley area and there's this tiny little area that you want to get into and work, or maybe it's, I don't know, little dots, whatever. These little fine liners are awesome for that sort of thing. They give nice rich color in a tiny space when sometimes it can be really hard to get a lot of layers in those teensy little areas. So a set of colorful fine liners for me was they're an invaluable tool. And then in addition to those, which I forgot to include in my colored pencil section, are the Prismacolor Verithints. They're a very sharp, very hard pencil. And I would actually almost be inclined to say that they are not really great for coloring, but more like for drawing and sketching. You can see just how fine of a tip you get. And so they're great for doing, for anything where you need a really sharp, fine line and you don't want to use a marker. Pencils, these pencils are great for that. And they come in, I don't remember how many colors they come in, 24, maybe 36. I don't think they come that high, but you're going to use them in small areas so that you don't necessarily need the exact color that you're using, but something close will probably be good enough. But they're a nice pencil for little teeny tiny detail work as well. Then we have my my black fine liners, which I use quite a lot. My gel pens, my favorite ones that seem to work the best for me are the Signo Uniball and the actual jelly rolls. They come in different sizes, I think like 5, 8, and 10, and I don't know what that represents. They're just the numbers. I'm not sure. I don't think it's millimeter. 05, 08, and 10, I think is what it is. But they're a really nice gel pen. And then I also love my white Posca pen. This 0.7 millimeter is the one that I use most frequently. It's got the tiny, tiny tip on it. But I do have some other larger ones for other purposes than coloring. And they're great. I use all of these all the time. My Wink of Stella, which is a lovely, you guys are probably familiar with it, a lovely brush pen of very fine glitter. These are the clear, and I think they come in other colors too, but the only one I've ever used is clear because I figure when I put it on top of a, something that I've colored, it'll take on that particular color, and it does that beautifully. So there's those. So now on to the tools. And the tools are, some of these tools that I have, they were like the best money spent. I'm really, really, really happy that I bought them. The first one is my Office World electric pencil sharpener. So a lot of people complain about Prismacolors breaking. And I've heard a lot of people say, you need this kind of sharpener. They say, I love my Coom sharpener, which is what this is, even though it's encased in a plastic holder. It's actually a Coom sharpener. And they tell you to hold the pencil with one hand and and rotate the sharpener around the pencil. I tried that, and sometimes it works, but often my pencils still break. I had a lot of breakage when I first started coloring with my Prismacolors, and it was quite frustrating. So I can completely understand anyone's frustration with breakage if they are trying to sharpen with a handheld sharpener. And I know there are a lot of you that still use handheld sharpeners, and you have wonderful luck and you love them, and that is great. I did not. So I switched to an electrical sharpener, and this one is, they call this it's either an elliptical or a helix, I can't remember which is the word, type sharpener. And the reason that they call it that is because this little bit, that's your blade, believe it or not. Actually, when you stick your pencil inside the sharpener, and it goes in from the top, which I really love because you have excellent control over how much you want that pencil to sharpen. This little doodad rotates just like they tell you to rotate the handheld sharpener around the pencil. This little doodad rotates around your pencil. And ever since I switched to this kind of sharpener, I almost never have a problem with breaking pencils. And I can sharpen those suckers to a needle point if I want to. It's a great sharpener. That was one of the best, that's some of the best money I ever spent was on this sharpener. So if you're having a problem with breakage, or you're having a problem, you know, you just don't like your sharpener or whatever, I really like this one. Okay, my next favorite tool that I'm really happy that I spent the money on would be an electric eraser. This one is by Handmade, and the thing that I like about this one, and of course I forgot to grab some of them, this one, it comes with a gazillion little eraser refills, and it also comes, that one's really short, it also comes with another adapter with an equal number of little mini erasers, like in this Tombow mono eraser. So you have the option of a nice big eraser or a little teeny tiny eraser, and it's all it's USB charged, so it's just always charged for me, and the charge lasts forever. So I throw it in the charger every once in a while, and I get a wonderful good eraser out of that. So I love my electric eraser. I think Derwent makes one as well, but I'm not familiar with that one. This one is great and has never let me down. So those are my sharpeners and my erasers. Let's see, what other awesome tools do I have? My Arteza water brushes. You squeeze right in the side to make the water squish out a little bit better, and they're wonderful. I use these all the time. I also have a and I can't think of it off the top of my head what kind of other water brush it is, and I hate it when that happens, but I cannot think of it. But anyway, pretty much most water brushes are gonna, a Pentel. Pentel water brushes are good too. But these Arteza water brushes come in like a pack of 4, and they come in all different sizes, real skinny and kind of a big round one, and some big flat ones. So there's some for whatever size that you need. I love those. And then this, you can get this at like Walmart. I think I got this at Walmart, and it's used probably for salad dressing or something, but I keep that full of water, and I always fill up my water brushes before I start with it. It makes it really easy to fill up those water brushes. And so that is a great tool. This was a gift recently sent to me by Kenny, again, bless her heart. She and many others of you got tired of me constantly wiping the flecks of stuff off my pages with my hand. One of you even, and I'm sorry, I can't think off the top of my head who it was, said that they cringed every time they saw me do that. So now I have this beautiful, soft, fluffy brush that I can wipe away the any of the crumbs or things off of my pages and not smudge it. Let's see, what else do we have? For pan pastels, we have the soft tools, which are lovely, and they come like this and also like this for small detail work, and they are they're made for the pan pastels, and I wouldn't use pan pastels without them. They're awesome. They're designed to smush that pastel into the tooth of the paper, and they come with little interchangeable spongy thingies, so those come off and can be replaced. So those are awesome. I'm loving my soft tools. Let's see, what else? Oh, for pan pastels, you need to have a workable fixative. I use this when I'm doing a portrait, and I can use this between layers, like I can do several layers and then spray this and then do several more. It helps to seal down the layer underneath while still allowing you to work on top. I also use it after I'm finished doing the pan pastel and then I'm ready to move on to colored pencil on the rest of the page. I'll use it then as well, and I'll be able to still put the colored pencil on and work the page that way. So that is an awesome tool. And gosh, is that it? Am I at the end of my coloring supplies? I find that very hard to believe, although we've probably been on here for about an hour and a half. So I guess, I think that's it, guys. Oh, I do have one more supply that I want to chit chat about, and that is paper. I have tried a lot of different papers, and paper is one of those things that it can make or break your page, because not all papers work for all colorists or artists for that matter. And here is an example of that. I have seen some incredible, gorgeous pages colored on toned tan paper. When I do it, it looks like a hot mess. And the only thing that I can think of is that it just comes down to the techniques that I'm using on it, as opposed to the techniques that the other colorist is using on it. It doesn't work for me. However, papers like this Strathmore Bristol Smooth, or my Recollections 110-pound smooth cardstock, work fabulously for me, and for many of you, you will find it too smooth. I know a lot of people that in my Facebook groups, in discussions and talking and stuff, they just talk about, papers being too smooth for them. And I haven't found a paper that's too smooth for me, unless I'm sure glossy paper wouldn't work. But the cardstock that I use in this Strathmore Bristol Smooth are quite smooth, and they are my paper of choice for my colored pages. So I'm going to just pull out some colored pencils in case you don't own these, in case you haven't tried any of these, And I want to just be able to show you what the difference in the tooth looks like on the paper. So I thought maybe we would do both Prismas and Polys. We'll do some oil-based pencils, and we'll do some wax-based pencils. So it's always such a decision as far as what pencil to use. I don't know. I don't think it makes a whole lot of difference, but I guess a darker pencil will allow you to see things a little bit better. So we'll do that. We'll use this cobalt turquoise in the Prismacolor, and we'll use something sort of comparable, but probably not, this halo turquoise in the Polychromos. Okay, so if you've watched any of my videos, you know that this Recollections cardstock is my favorite paper, but the Bristol Smooth is, I actually really love the Bristol Smooth, but it's more expensive. This cardstock I can get a lot cheaper, so even when I use a coupon, it still works out to be less money for me to get the cardstock. And I don't have to cut it down, which is a big plus. So when I use a Prismacolor pencil on this smooth paper, I get this nice smooth coverage of the paper. And maybe I should do these without using any kind of a blender, just so that you can really see it well. I don't know. I do like to use my blenders though. So maybe I'm going to change my mind and still use a blender. I don't know what I did. For some reason I don't have the... Oh, you know what? I'm going to go get that, because now that I think about it, I left the blenders off of my list of tools, and I want you to be able to see those. So the two pencil style blenders that I use are the Caran Full Blender, which is my favorite blender, and the Prismacolor colorless blender, which I also really love. And depending on why I'm blending or where I'm blending, that will determine which one of the two blenders I will use. So let's just blend this. I'm applying just a light, let's say a medium pressure on the blend here. And you can see that I got really heavy total coverage of the paper, or maybe you can't. Let me zoom in. Heavy total coverage of the paper with the Prismacolor. And so let's do the same thing with the Polychromos. Oh, I did pretty good picking a similar color. This one's just a little bluer. Again, it goes over this smooth paper for me really, really nicely. And you saw that when I was swatching things out. I guess you saw this, how they behaved on this smooth paper, because I did swatch them out on the smooth paper. Okay, so for this one, I'll just use, this is the Prismacolor colorless blender. I don't have my brush with me, so we'll just have to make do. So that's what happens when I use the smooth paper, and I can put multiple layers on this smooth paper. I have not had a problem with running out of layers. Now that's just me and my technique, but I know that there are some colored pencil artists who put so many layers of color down, especially on their portraits, that they might run out of tooth on a smooth cardstock like this. So, you know, that's why I wanted to show you how different different papers can look with your color pencils. So this is the toned tan paper, and I'm going to do the exact same thing, apply the exact same pressure that I did on my smooth cardstock, and you'll see what happens. Look how much paper is still showing underneath this. And I'm putting down more layers than I did on the other one, and the tooth is just not filling in. It probably will fill in if I bring in my blender. But even with my blender and I'm applying the same amount of pressure, there's still gaps. There's still paper showing behind the pencil. Whoops. So the same with the poly. I believe the same thing is going to happen. So I guess my lesson for you in this, the thing that I would like newer, younger colorists, I guess. Well, everybody's younger than me. Well, not everybody, but you know what I mean. New to coloring colorists. The thing that I think I would like them to know, one of the things that I wish I had learned earlier, is that paper is going to make 100% difference in how your pages are going to turn out. So if you get frustrated because your page does not look like like you want it to, or your page doesn't look like the tutorial page that you followed, whatever the reason, it could be the paper. It may not be that you're doing something wrong. It's just that you're using the wrong paper. And sometimes it takes experimenting with a lot of different papers until you find the one that that really, really works for you, because everyone's technique is different. The amount of pressure that everyone applies as they're coloring is different. You can have, as I'm sure you've seen, you can have many people following the same tutorial, trying to color the page just the way the colorist is showing you, and it's going to turn out different for every person. And that's because everyone's technique and style is different, and people might be using different papers. So that really is all that I wanted to kind of explain and show you. I need to zoom out a little bit so that I'm not continuing to get out of frame there. So that is it on the paper. That is my philosophy on paper. Try a bunch, try some textured ones, try some smooth ones. Don't let people tell you a smooth paper is no good for color pencil because you won't have enough tooth, because that's just not true. It might be too smooth for them, but it might not be too smooth for you. So now that I've probably repeated myself a gazillion times, saying the same thing in 8 million different ways, that concludes the full range of my coloring supplies that I've collected over the last year, and a few things that I've learned along the way. So thanks for hanging out with me so much. I hope that you weren't too terribly bored with this one. I know that it wasn't probably as fun as watching some coloring, but hopefully you learned something new, found a product that you didn't know you had to have, or just yeah. So I think I've been filming for too long, and I think I'm tired. So thanks so much for joining me, you guys. You're the best. If you're new to my channel, please, please, please check out some of my other videos. I have some color alongs from some amazing artists, and they're lots and lots of fun. So I will see you guys on the next color along, which will probably be a week from now. And we'll probably do something from either Mysteria or Nocturnes, one of those two from Anastasia Koldareva. I was hoping that my new book, Serenity, would be in, but I don't think it's going to be in time. So we'll do one of the other ones. They're all beautiful. So thanks, guys. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And I will see you later. Bye.